All right, how's it going, everybody? I am back with a top 10 wide receiver ranking of the 2022 NFL Draft. There's a couple disclaimers. It's just my opinion. Obviously, everybody feel free to leave your comments and thoughts in the comment section, or if you're watching on stream, leave it in the stream. I'd love to get your feedback from it. Um, through this, I have a few images from Pro Football Network. Huge shout out to them for making these awesome graphics. Yeah, so without further ado, let's jump right into it. So my number 10, we got Calvin Austin III out of Memphis. A couple pros on him, very quick and agile. I mean, he's one of two guys I have on this list where stock was his stock rose due to the Senior Bowl. We'll get to the next one in a few minutes here. Basically, very quick and agile. Small. He kind of reminds me of, as I put down at the bottom here, Pro Comp, which is kind of funny considering the fact that Antonio Gibson went to Memphis. Not really going to go in a row here. He can return kicks. He's got the size, your typical size to return kicks and punts. I feel like a slot receiver would probably be best for him, considering his smaller frame and line up in the backfield. He seems like a guy. When you go based on size, to me, he just reminds me a little bit more of a running back more than a wide receiver. I don't know why, but Trendon Holiday comes to mind. I feel like I could have put him as a pro comparison too, just not as much of a kick returner like that. Another good comparison for him is Isaiah McKenzie from the Buffalo Bills. Very fast guy. You can put him anywhere. The only thing that's maybe not so accurate about the Isaiah McKenzie is like when I think of Isaiah McKenzie, he can be like your vertical threat. Maybe not so much Calvin Austin. He doesn't do great with 50-50 balls. One-on-one matchups are a little tough. Obviously, that's something you can work on when you get to the NFL. But just, I know it's kind of nitpicky, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of things in this that are very nitpicky. I know size is one thing you always hear when it comes to guys in the draft. But just his size to me, it just seems more fit for a running back. Obviously, like I said, you can put him out wide if you need to. He's gonna be a great pass catcher, but I'm interested to see that kind of versatility. I hope he goes to the right team that can use him well, because I'm sure if he's used well, he will be very dynamic. But like I said, these are just things that I'm thinking of right now. So it's me, probably be better fit at running back, but we'll see. And obviously combine numbers will factor into this too at a later date. But on number 9, we got David Bell out of Purdue. I really like David Bell. I don't think he got enough credit coming out of Purdue. I know when it comes to Purdue, not very, it's not like that's a school everybody's looking in on like Alabama and Georgia. They had a couple great wins this year though over ranked teams. So a couple things on David Bell is great hands and catching range. Throw him anything within 5 feet of him sure he's going to catch it. Good size and strength for him coming off the line. Press isn't really an issue for him. He's a tough one-on-one matchup considering the fact that, especially if you have him pressed up at the line man coverage. If he gets a good release on you, I know I said he's not a great deep threat, but even if he gets a good release on a press coverage, he's just gonna beat you just beat you right off the line. He's gonna be open downfield. But his one big con, he's very handsy, meaning he does a lot of push-offs. Obviously, at the NFL, you're not going to get away with that too often. But that, like I said, very nitpicky. Not a whole lot about him that I can really complain about. His route running is a little bit inconsistent at times, but it's not a huge issue. Like I said, it's things you can work on. Get a good wide receiver coach, offensive coordinator. He has good separation. You can create separation. About like with medium routes, give him like a 8-9 yard out route, even on a post maybe. But yeah, it's something that he can do to get good separation. I gave him his pro comparison of Bryan Edwards, wide receiver for the Raiders. Maybe not entirely accurate with the when it comes to 50-50 balls or getting deep, but something where it's a bigger receiver, more reliable hands, stuff like that. So David Bell, I think, would be a great pickup if you can get him in like the mid late second round. I could see that being his landing spot. Number 8, another guy I was talking about with the Senior Bowl, Christian Watson. Christian Watson is great. I gave him a pro comparison to Juwan Jennings. That's like the closest I could get, because when I watch Christian Watson, there's no one to me that really like compares in a sense, because he's huge. He's like 6'5", 6'6". But I mean, he only weighs about 200 pounds. So not huge. Like I put his strength. It's more so with like his frame. Because when it comes to like physical coverage, he's probably not going to win that often. But I mean, like I mentioned, 50-50 ball when he's trying to go up over somebody. That really helps him. But yeah, 6'5", and his big thing is that he can return kicks. During the Senior Bowl, he put him back there as a kick returner. I'm like, man, somebody's 6'5" doing that? I'm like, that's kind of crazy. But yeah, Christian Watson is a very interesting prospect. I'm going to be interested to see how he tests at the Combine and his pro day. I think that'll go a lot into where his draft stock goes. I think if he can run a sub 4.5, a sub 4.5 would really help him. And the over-the-shoulder drill. I think if he can test well in both of those, I think his draft stock will be early second round, maybe even late first. Just because of his size, really. Strength, like I said, if he can put on muscle with that height he'll be a great receiver. I think starting right now would probably be a good number 3, number 4 receiver. But like we said, puts on strength. I'm sure he could be a deadly weapon at the NFL level. His release, something you can work on. Doesn't have a great burst. Like I said, I'm interested. Like, I know I keep repeating myself, but if he can test well in the speed and cone drill, I think he'll be fine there. His catch focus is a little bit below average. He does need to work on catching a little bit. Not a huge concern, just more inconsistency than anything. And I know, like I said, I keep repeating myself here, but size, put on strength, and I'm sure he'll be a great receiver. Next up, George Pickens, number 7. George Pickens is a receiver I like a lot in this draft. This is just where I think they rank based on terms of like talent. George Pickens is genuinely one of my favorite receivers in this class. I think the only reason he's far down is because of his injury he had this past year, and he had ACL surgery in the spring. He's very agile for his size. He's another one like Watson where he's like 6'4", 6'5". I think a little over 200 pounds. He's very reliable hands. I really haven't seen this guy drop anything since he's been at Georgia. He's a guy I followed the last couple of years. He's very physical with his size. I think another thing you could add to Christian Watson, if he can be more physical with his size, he'll be great. The only things with George Pickens is acceleration and burst, not great coming off the line, and his route running is a little bit sloppy from time to time. I know those are the only reason that he's not higher up on this list. Honestly, if those were just inconsistency problems rather than a consistent problem he would be a top 3 receiver in this class for sure, strictly because of his size and his speed. But I mean, when you can't get a burst coming off the line, it's harder to get deep over cornerbacks, especially on vertical routes. I mean, your route running, that's how you create separation. So if he can fix those problems, he'll be incredible to watch, honestly. Pro comparison, Mike Williams, just size relation for me there. Mike Williams is going to be... I can't wait to see where he goes this free agency, if he stays in Los Angeles or goes to another team. But, yeah, more of a size comparison there for Mike Williams. And the reliable hands. I don't really see Mike Williams drop all too much. But, yeah, like I said, if he can fix these problems with inconsistency. Like I said, show will be great. I think if I had to give a pick prediction on where George Pickens is going to land, I would say second round. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go early third, maybe. In my latest mock, I have him actually going late first. I think that's probably the earliest he'll go. I think I had him going to Miami. Yeah, kind of a broad range for George Pickens in that sense. But on to number 6, we got Jahan Dotson. Jahan Dotson is a very... What am I trying to say here? He's a great prospect to watch because the more and more I look into him, the less I really have to complain about. And I know I put size and strength on his cons. It's really not as big of a deal as some may think. He's just a little bit smaller. I think he's like, 5'10", 5'11", 180. I mean, really just nitpicky there. Like I said, strength, strength isn't even really a problem for him because he has really good bursts coming off the line. So, and he's very, I don't want to say reckless because he's not afraid to like dive into traffic or just pretty much do whatever it takes to make a catch. So I don't want to say reckless because he doesn't really have an injury problem. But yeah, the more I look into Jahan Dotson, the more I actually really like him. I don't see him really going any earlier than maybe like... I think his ceiling is probably mid-first. His floor is probably mid-second. But like I said, the more I look into Jahan Dotson, the more I wanted to put him higher on this list, but there's just so much talent in front of him that it's hard to. I think if you take a less competitive wide receiver class, because this wide receiver class is loaded. I mean, even after the top 10, like I didn't even put John Mechie in this, and I think John Mechie is a great receiver. His just injury history kind of is concerning, but anyway, Jahan Dotson, I think in any other wide receiver class, maybe not like the last, like 2020 wouldn't work. Maybe even last year, I think he'd be a top 3. Yeah, just a great talent there, wide receiver. Pro comparison, Percy Harvin. More of a size comparison, like I said. Very fast. I know Percy Harvin, like I said, there's no injury concerns for Jahan Dotson, thankfully, as there was for Percy Harvin. But I think you could even go with like a Tyler Lockett kind of thing there, those Seattle receivers. Yeah, I'm interested to see where Jahan Dotson goes. I really like him as a wide receiver prospect. One of my favorites in this class. Number 5, Chris Olave. I think Chris Olave is somebody that a lot of people had higher on their lists for a while. I know Chris Olave at one point was probably considered the number 1 wide receiver in this class, along with his teammate Garrett Wilson. But he's just he's like a victim of circumstance, just like Jahan Dotson, where it's like these guys are very talented. There's just so much talent in front of them that it's just hard to balance where they want to go. Like honestly, if you take this top 10 of players, you could probably give it to somebody else, and they could rank everybody differently. And I wouldn't even say they'd be wrong, really. Just so much talent here, like I said. Pros, very good route runner. That's why the pro comparison there is Calvin Ridley for me. His footwork is incredible. He's great at creating separation. He's the threat at every single level. Throw him on a slant, throw a little out route to him. Post routes, vertical threats, anything like that. Even a comeback, he can just any route he can create yardage for. The strength and question marks on one-on-one press kind of coexist. More so back to like the Watson one. If he can just get a little bit stronger and use that frame to his advantage, it'll be no concern there. I think if he can just use his frame to even... I know I said his footwork helps him create separation, but if his frame can help him get more separation, he'll be open all the freaking time. So Chris Olave there, number 5. Seeing if there's anything else I want to touch on here while we're here. He's a very consistent receiver. He can make a lot happen with the ball in his hands. But Chris Olave is a guy, he's gotten a lot of attention for a few years now. At Ohio State, he's always just been good. I think kind of blew up when Justin Fields was his quarterback there. I think Olave was the number 1 target. Number 4, Jameson Williams. This one is interesting because I really like Jameson Williams. It's just, I don't want to say he's one-dimensional, but when you look at his tape from Bama, because he didn't really do much. He didn't really do much at Ohio State, and that's why he transferred to Alabama. But yeah, let's be honest. He's got to be the best deep threat in this class, for sure. I really don't even think there's a question there. Like I said, speed, vertical threat. I'd be surprised if his 40 time was any higher than a 4.35. His burst right off the line is great. His range, throw it anywhere. He's so fast. Throw it anywhere. I think within 15, 20 yards of him down the field, I think he's going to make the catch on it. I know release and separation, release and burst are kind of similar in a sense. Whereas, like, burst, when you're not pressing him, he can just fly by cornerbacks. Like, it's not even a problem for him. He just flies by cornerbacks. I think it's just a fact when you're pressed against a physical corner that he kind of has trouble on. I think that's a kind of common theme with a lot of wide receivers in this class, that the frame and strength, it's hard for them to overpower a cornerback. But like we said, I think that's something that a weight room can fix. It's not a hard fix, and I'm sure in the NFL they'll emphasize that for him. Separation, again, kind of nitpicky because, like we said, you can just, if you're not being pressed, you can just fly by. He can just fly by cornerbacks. But I think it's just when you're on routes that aren't necessarily vertical threats and guys are a little bit off the line. I think if somebody's pressed on you and you're running, I don't know, we'll say like running in route, for example, it's going to be a little bit harder for him to get away from the cornerback because he has to stop and go rather than just fly. Pro comparison there is Will Fuller. Along speed mostly comparison there, hands. It's going to be a very fun receiver to watch at the next level. I think it doesn't even matter which team he goes on. As long as you get a quarterback that can throw down the field, he'll be fine. Number 3, Garrett Wilson. Now, I know a lot of people have Garrett Wilson as our common consensus number 1 in this draft. I know 3, I can't see him ranked any lower than 3 on anybody's. Garrett Wilson, like, in my opinion, I think he's the best all-around receiver in this class. Yep, it kind of goes along with threat at every level. He can create very good separation. He's one of the ones that are a little bit stronger in this class too. He's a great route runner, which helps him. I said he's a great route runner. Jeez, I'm sorry. His route running is a bit inconsistent. His separation, his strength helps him get separation. It's better footwork than route running. He's just a little bit sloppy. Kind of when you're stopping and go, like on a post route, instead of cutting very hard, he just kind of like, you know what I mean? Takes a lower angle. Yeah, but like I said, this is stuff that can be improved. And the top 3 stuff is very nitpicky. It's not even that these are very much cons for him. It's just stuff that you can work on to get better. Because Garrett Wilson is a very good receiver already, and I'm interested to see what he can do at the NFL level. I think he's the most NFL-ready wide receiver in this class. But yeah, he's a guy where I'm sure he'll succeed as soon as he gets to the NFL level. Just interesting to see where he's going to go. Number 2, guy that's kind of been flying up draft boards lately, Drake London out of USC. We didn't get to see much of him this past year because of an injury early in the season that held him out the rest of the year. Thankfully, injuries are not necessarily a concern for him. Just kind of one of a freak injury for him. He has very good size and speed. He's 6'5". He's very fast. He's great at the wide receiver position. Like pro comparison, Mike Evans. I think that's actually very accurate for him. He gets great separation of range. you don't see many times. You don't see very often where somebody will actually be pressed on him and keep him at bay. I mean, if you do, you got a great corner on your hands. I mean, he's very good hands. I say the 50-50 ball. He has a flair for making incredible catches. That's why I have the 50-50 ball up there. I mean, it's 6'5", especially with most, like, you take your typical cornerback size. It's going to be very hard to keep him from catching a 50-50 ball, especially with the good hands he has and, the separation he likes to create, his size and speed. Just very good for him. And then, like, run blocking is very nitpicky. I know run blocking isn't huge for him, but if you got a wide receiver that likes to run block or is good at it, I mean, that just takes your run game to the whole new level. His lateral quickness is something that can be worked on out of anything. This is like Drake London's another guy where, like, when you watch him on film, there's not very many things you can point out that's wrong or that's bad. Yeah, like I said, kind of nitpicky. Drake London, I think, is just going to be a beast. And number 1, Traylin Burks. Traylin Burks just reminds me of a bigger Deebo Samuel with just as much, if not more, speed. I mean, Traylin Burks is going to be very exciting to watch for years to come, I think. I mean, he's very elusive, hard to tackle. He definitely has the best size and speed in this class. He's like 6'3". I think he's like 230, 235. I don't think he'll run any slower than a 4.3. Again, like run blocking, that's very nitpicky. Attention to little things. I think sometimes you can see he almost like forgets his assignment, like what route he's necessarily supposed to be running. But I mean, a lot of the time it's almost like screens. And like I said with Deebo, you could probably even line him up in the backfield if you really wanted to. Do the stuff the 49ers do with Deebo. Yeah, Burks is just a very exciting player. I mean, Arkansas, I know, didn't get very many nationally televised games this year, but when he was on, he just put the whole team on his back. So Burks, number 1. Like I said earlier, you could put any of these guys in any row, really, and most of the time I think you'll be pretty accurate. But this is a very deep wide receiver class. I don't think it'll be as deep as 2020, but pretty deep nonetheless. But yeah, that's about all I got. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Like I said, leave your thoughts and comments for upcoming videos. If you disagree, if you agree, no matter what, I'd love to get your feedback, and I'll try to respond if I can. But like I said, thank you guys for watching. See you later.